Good evening and welcome to the East Gippsland Shire Council meeting of Tuesday the 17th of March 2026. Council meetings are live streamed, recorded and published via webcasting. These recordings are available for viewing by the public by following the link on Council's website. During the meeting, any members of the public who are addressing the Council will have their image and comments recorded. No other person has the right to record council meetings unless approval has been granted by the chair. If technical difficulties are experienced with the live streaming during the meeting, we will adjourn until the issue is resolved. If issues can't be resolved, the meeting may be postponed to a later time or date. Council acknowledges the traditional owners and custodians of this land and pays deep respect to all First Nations peoples and communities with enduring cultural connections to East Gippsland, who have cared for and nourished country for tens of thousands of years. We honour and celebrate the rich diversity, living cultures and ongoing contributions of the First Nations peoples who live, work, visit and play across East Gippsland. We also acknowledge the many First Nations communities who together continue to shape and contribute to the region we know as East Gippsland, the place where we as local government deliver services and support to all our community. Before we commence, I wish to advise that the following consultation with the Chief Executive Officer, item 5.2.1, Con 2026-1789, Bairnsdale Runway Extension and Lighting Construction Works, has been withdrawn from tonight's agenda. This item will not be considered at this meeting and will be rescheduled for Council's consideration at a future meeting. In line with the Local Government Act, councillors are able to attend council meetings electronically or in person. When participating in a meeting electronically, a councillor can only be recorded as present when they confirm that the following criteria is met. 1, they can hear proceedings and can be heard by other members in attendance. And 2, they can see other members in attendance and can be seen by other members. Councillor Buckley, can you see and hear us?
Indeed I can, Mayor.
And can you confirm your participation from a private location suitable for confidential discussions if required?
Indeed it is.
If a councillor participating online experiences technical difficulties, we may adjourn briefly to enable them to rejoin the meeting. Should they be unable to reconnect within 5 minutes, the meeting shall resume in their absence. Item 1.2 on the agenda is apologies. We have received one apology for tonight's meeting from Councillor Bernie Farquhar. We now move to item 1.3, declarations of conflict of interest. Councillors are reminded that the Local Government Act requires conflicts of interest to be disclosed in accordance with the procedures set out in the governance rules. This includes stating the following 3 points. 1, the item for which you have a conflict. 2, whether the conflict is of interest is general or material. And 3, an explanation of why the conflict exists. Are there any declarations of conflict for tonight's meeting? No, I see none. Thank you. Next on the agenda is confirmation of minutes. Councillors, the minutes for the meeting held on Tuesday the 17th of February 2026 have all been circulated to you, and I trust that you've all had the opportunity to review them. Do I have a mover to confirm those minutes? Thank you, Councillor Allen. And a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Crook. And Councillor Allen, would you like to speak to the motion?
Only to say that they're a true and accurate record.
Thank you. And Councillor Crook, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Is the motion opposed? No, I see none. So I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those for? Thank you, councillors. The motion is carried. The next scheduled, item 1.5, our next meeting, The next meeting of council is to be held on Tuesday, Tuesday 21st of April 2026 at the Corporate Centre, 273 Main Street, Bairnsdale, commencing at 6 p.m. Item 1.6 is requests for leave of absence. CEO, have we any requests?
Thank you, Mayor. I've received no requests.
Thank you. So this evening, this point in the proceedings, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge some special guests in our public gallery. So we've got Sam Kelly and we've got Sophie Bloom from St Mary's Primary School, and they're here as part of the Rotary Junior Community Awards program. So your participation in this community program is commendable, and we're delighted to have you observing the meeting tonight. And to recognise your involvement and your dedication, if you would like to come up here, I'll present you with a council pin. Oh, that went well. So we'll now move on to our open forum. Item 1.7.1 is petitions. Council has received a petition titled Open Nicholson Street Mall, Bairnsdale. And we've got our General Manager Business Excellence, Miss Sarah Johnson. Would you please present the petition?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So the report in front of Council tonight seeks for Council to receive the petition. Note that a report on this matter will be provided to a future Council meeting, and note that the CEO will arrange for Council officers to write to the head petitioner, advising them of this action. So key points for Council is the petition states, we the undersigned hereby petition East Gippsland Shire Council to open Nicholson Street Mall for the safety of pedestrians, shoppers, workers and business owners, to stop congestion in Nicholson Bailey Streets and Nicholson Service Streets, and to improve traffic flow in the area. The petition was received in accordance with the governance rules, and the councillors have also been provided with a full copy. Officers, along with the Mayor and Deputy Mayor, have met with the trader representatives from this part of the Bairnsdale CBD on several occasions, and discussions have also been held with both the member of Gippsland and the member of Gippsland East. We've also made a commitment to establish a small working group or task force to progress both short-term and longer-term initiatives to support this area of the CBD. So the report is presented to you for consideration. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms Johnson. Councillors, there is a recommendation in the report, so I'll now call on any questions. Apologies. My apologies, Councillor Eastman. Are there any questions of clarification?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and through you. Thank you, Ms Johnson. Could you tell us how many signatories were on the petition?
Yeah.
And how long it went for? When did it open and when did it close? Do we know?
Thank you, Councillor Eastman. Yeah, it's a really good question. So I can tell you that the combined total of signatories to the petition was 3,263, and that was both the physical and online parts. I'd have to take the question on notice as to exactly how long it was open for, though.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, any more questions for Ms Johnson? No? Okay. So now, councillors, there is a recommendation in the report, so I'll now call on any councillor to move a motion. Thank you, Councillor Eastman. And can I get a seconder? Councillor Buckley. Thank you. And Councillor Eastman, would you like to speak to the motion?
Very briefly, Mayor. I'm pleased to see Council accepting this petition. I'm pleased to see the amount of work the officers and Mayor have put into trying to accommodate the traders' concerns and needs, and I look forward to seeing what sort of work will be done on this in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Buckley, would you like to speak to the motion?
Certainly, I always support petitions that are, put forward with gusto and with good intent. I think that we've had our eye on this area for some time in council. There's been, and the community should rest assured that there's been plenty of discussion around this issue, and that we will be working hard towards finding some solutions and assisting the business owners. So thank you for all the work that the Mayor and Deputy have done, and everybody else involved. And also the artwork. I just wanted to say the artwork's brilliant in them all, I think. Great job, well done.
Thanks, Councillor Buckley. Is the motion opposed? No, I see none. Does any other councillor wish to speak to the motion? No, I see none. So I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those for? Thank you, councillors. The motion is carried. Uh, 1.7.3. So we've got some questions. There's a total of 3 public questions for tonight's meeting, submitted by 2 members of the community who have both requested that the CEO present their questions. CEO, could you please present the questions you've been asked to read on behalf of the community members? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Now, whilst most of the questions don't refer to the topic, we are assuming it is about the Bairnsdale outdoor pool, and therefore I've asked General Manager Place and Community Chris Stevenson to come forward, so once I've read the questions he can provide a brief answer. So the first question is from Ms Genevieve Wilkes, and the question is, it's now been 4 weeks since you have said at the last council meeting that a report was a few weeks away from being finalised. What are the findings of the report? Thank you, Mr Stevenson.
Thanks for the question, and through you, Mayor. So Council received an independent condition and safety report on the Bairnsdale outdoor pool just late last week, and as per all reports of this nature, officers are currently preparing a briefing to come to councillors in coming weeks. It is fair to say it's a thorough report that highlights a significant list of structural safety and compliance issues with the current facility, and details the condition of the pool and all the related infrastructure on site. So officers will work with the councillors on the next steps and associated communications following that briefing.
Thank you, Mr Stevenson. The next 2 questions are from Ms Anne Duffy. I will read them both and then I again ask Mr Stevenson to respond. The preamble is I'm re-asking a question from the February council meeting that was not answered on the night, and for which I am yet to receive any follow-up correspondence. And the question is, what works are currently being carried out? And the second question is, what works are planned to ensure that there is no further deterioration of the outdoor pool complex prior to the 2026-27 season? Thank you, Mr Stevenson.
Thanks for the question, and through you, Mayor. So I'll refer to my last response in relation that at the request of councillors, we've undertaken an independent review of the pool and the facilities surrounding the pool. So that's one piece of work that's been undertaken, and this is really there to provide councillors with details of the required remediation works and associated costs, and this will help for councillors to inform direction on the next steps. So we're not planning on any other works other than general maintenance of the grounds, and anything else will come out of the briefing with councillors about the way forward, the strategic direction that we want to take with this site.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is 1.7.3, public submissions. CEO, are there any public submissions for tonight's meeting?
Thank you, Mayor. We've received no requests to speak or to be heard this evening. No public submissions.
Thank you. Item 1.8 is items for noting, and in accordance with section 54(5)(b) of the Local Government Act 2020, a copy of the Audit and Risk Committee biannual report is to be tabled and subsequently recorded in the minutes of the meeting. Item 2 on the agenda is notices of motion, and there are none for tonight's meeting. Item 3 is deferred business, and again, we have none. Item 4 is Councillor Delegate reports. Councillors, I'd encourage you to submit your written reports for inclusion in the minutes. We'll now move on to officers' reports. The first report is item 5.1.1, Homes for Everyone position paper. CEO, would you please present the report?
Thank you, Mayor. With a bit of break from tradition, I'm actually going to ask our Manager of Communications, Engagement and Advocacy to present the report, given that he coordinated the work across a range of offices. I feel he's in a better position, and I should acknowledge his work by asking him to present the report. So thank you, Luke.
Through you, Mayor, and good evening, everyone. The report that is in front of you this evening is to seek the adoption of the proposed Homes for Everyone position paper. Councillors have identified homelessness and affordable and social housing as key focus areas for this council. The position paper has been developed with the councillor group and has been developed to enhance the understanding of housing issues and opportunities in East Gippsland. A couple of the key points are the position paper aims to bring together council's current initiatives and protocols that support homelessness and housing delivery, clarify our role in meeting the housing needs of our community, and identifying opportunities for partnerships in the community, and prioritising our advocacy efforts that relate to housing. The intention of this paper is for it to be used by council, by staff and support agencies and the housing sector to address the current housing challenges that we have in our community. One note, it's important to note that housing, homelessness and specialist support services are not core local government activities. We play a support role in some of those functions, and the reports and the position paper is for your consideration tonight.
Thank you, Luke. Councillors, are there any questions of clarification regarding the contents of the report or the recommendation? Councillor Eastman?
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. Thank you, Luke. I noticed that on page 25 of the agenda, it says we're committed to developing or preparing an action plan. Do we have any indication of when that might happen?
Thank you, Councillor, and through you, Mayor, I might answer this one. Councillors, we've commenced work on an action plan, and we want it to be a really dynamic document, which is why it wasn't attached this evening, so that it can be easily updated. Our next plan is to finalise that work in consultation with the councillor group, and then write that into our budgetary processes and our council plan, action plan for 2026-27. And identify if there are some things that we can immediately start. So whilst there isn't an action plan as part of this position paper, the position paper really sets the policy context, and then the intent is as soon as we have an adopted, which hopefully we will tonight, an adopted position paper, we will then finalise the action plan with the councillor group and commence those actions.
Sorry, one more, Mayor, if I may. Thank you, CEO. With the action plan and the policy paper, will there need to be, will we need to go out to community engagement?
It's a great question, and depending on where we land with them, sorry, through you, Mayor, depending when we land on those actions, there may be some that councillors believe are ones that we'd want to consult more broadly on, and there may be others where we see that as part of our sort of normal business, whether that's in planning or whether it's in advocacy. and there may not be a need for as broad a consultation. I think what's going to be really important throughout this process is that we keep up really good communication with our community and our stakeholders so they understand what our position is and what we're doing in partnership with community to action this really important issue for our community.
Thank you.
Other questions? Oh, Councillor Buckley, question?
Thank you, Mayor. Look, it was just answered partially by the CEO then. I guess my question was how would we measure our progress and outcomes from this position paper?
Thank you, Councillor Buckley, and through you. The action plan, and I think it's even written in there that we would make sure there was at least a report prepared annually on the actions and the progress of the action plan and the report. But we'd also see that one of the other reports Council will be considering this evening is the progress report on the annual action plan that supports the council plan. We would see that quarterly actions would be reported in the same way through that same mechanism. So I would anticipate that council will be getting quarterly actions through the performance plan and then an annual action plan as a standalone report. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any more questions, councillors? No? Okay, in that case, there's a recommendation in the report, so I'll now call on any councillor to move the motion. Thank you, Councillor Crook. And do I have a seconder for the motion? Thank you, Councillor Eastman. And Councillor Crook, would you like to speak to the motion?
I certainly would. Thank you, Mayor. Councillors, this has been a bit of a long time coming and I'm really glad that we are here. Housing is not an abstract policy issue, it's not a theoretical debate and it's not something happening somewhere else. It's happening here in East Gippsland and it's happening now. Behind tonight's report are real people. People sleeping in cars, people couch surfing with their kids, staying in overcrowded homes, or living with the constant anxiety about whether next week's rental increase will push them over the edge. And I want to be clear from the outset, this position paper doesn't claim that council can solve the housing crisis alone. What it does is something far more important for a council at this moment in time. It says that we'll not pretend this isn't happening. It says that we won't stay silent. It says that we will not be unclear about our role. This paper is the product of extensive briefings and workshops with councillors during 2025 and again and more so this year. It reflects what we've already discussed, debated and acknowledged together, that homelessness, affordable housing and housing security are now central issues of community wellbeing right here in East Gippsland. And that's exactly where this paper sits, within theme 1 of our council plan, community wellbeing and social responsibility, with our vision under that, saying that we will strive to achieve a connected and inclusive community where no one is left behind. If we're serious about that commitment, then clarity on housing matters is not optional. The strength of this position paper, I feel, is that it's honest. It clearly states that housing delivery and specialist housing and homelessness services are not core functions of local government. It doesn't overpromise. It doesn't blur the lines of responsibility. Instead, it clearly defines council's role as a leader, as a partner and an advocate. A leader in how we use our council land, owned by the community but managed by us on the community's behalf. How we use our planning system, our local laws and our assets. And our partnerships, how we work alongside agencies, housing providers and community organisations. And how we undertake advocacy, using a unified evidence-based position to press state and federal governments for the investment and reform that East Gippslanders genuinely need. This is not mission creep, this is good governance. Colleagues, the data in this paper should give us pause. 17.5% of dwellings in East Gippsland sit unoccupied. Almost 4,600 homes sitting empty, while more than 1,800 households are on the Victorian Housing Register priority waiting list. Over 6,000 spare bedrooms yet nearly 3,000 households experiencing housing stress. Median house prices that are rising by almost 10% a year. Private rentals now classified as unaffordable or only marginally affordable and getting worse. These are not numbers designed to shock. They're numbers that explain why people are losing stability, why local workers can't stay, and why services struggle to retain staff. What this paper gives us is a shared framework, a framework that pulls together the programs we already run, clarifies how planning and local laws can support better outcomes, identifies where partnerships are likely to make a real difference, and focuses our advocacy so that we're not sending mixed messages or signals when we sit across the table from ministers, departments and funding bodies. Without this paper, our intent would stay fragmented. With it, our message becomes coherent. Now, I know some people may be concerned about resourcing of this, and the report's pretty upfront about that too. It doesn't mandate staffing or funding agreements. That's not what we're agreeing to tonight. It simply acknowledges that if councillors choose to progress certain actions, that resourcing needs to be considered at the appropriate time through proper budget and governance processes. And that's not a weakness of this paper, it's a strength. Mayor, tonight's decision is about not about fixing the housing crisis in a single motion. It's about whether we're prepared to say clearly and collectively that housing matters, homelessness matters, and that East Gippsland Shire Council has a role to play. Thanks, and sorry for going over time.
Thank you, Councillor Crook. And Councillor Eastman, would you like to speak to the motion?
Very briefly, thank you, Mayor, because I think Councillor Crook said just about everything we need to say. I'm really pleased to see this position paper and to give us some direction as to where we go forward, and I look forward to working with councillors, staff and the community for deciding what focus East Gippsland Shire can and will have in relation to this issue and where we can do best for our people. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Eastman. Is the motion opposed, councillors? No, I see none. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? No. I'd like to take the opportunity to thank our councillor officers for their work on the Houses for Everyone position paper. It's a strong, thoughtful piece of work that clearly recognises both the scale and the urgency of housing affordability issues in East Gippsland. I also want to acknowledge and thank my fellow councillors, because as a councillor group we've been united in our support on this paper. We agree that it provides a clear, responsible and community-focused position, and that it strengthens our ability to advocate for real outcomes. Housing affordability, as Councillor Crook has mentioned, affects people across all ages and stages of life in our community: families, workers, older residents and younger people. This position paper acknowledges those realities and sends a clear message that Council understands the challenges and is committed to being part of the solution. I also want to thank the East Gippsland Housing Affordability Conversation Group. Your ongoing advocacy, insight and commitment have played a vital role in keeping this issue visible and meaningful. You continue to champion this cause, and that passion and persistence really matters. This work demonstrates what's possible when council and community work together with a shared purpose, and I look forward to continuing this important work for the benefit of the whole community. Thank you. So I'll now put the motion to the vote, councillors. All those in favour? Thank you. That motion is carried. The next report is item 5.1.2, MAV State Council May meeting adoption of motions. CEO, would you please present your report?
Again, Mayor, with your indulgence, I might hand over directly to our Manager of Communications, Engagement and Advocacy. These sort of motions get drawn from right across the councillor group and the organisation, but Luke, as the manager responsible, has been charged with pulling them together in time for consideration by council. to take forward to their MAV State Council. So across to Mr Robinson. Thank you.
Through you, Mayor, tonight's report and 2 motions for consideration, 2 recommendations for consideration relate to the Municipal Association of Victoria State Council meeting, which will be held on the 29th of May. The MAV calls for motions from Victorian councils twice a year to be formally considered at 2 state council meetings. This is the first of those this year. Through the council plan actions and informal discussions, the councillor groups identified 2 issues that we've worked up as consideration as potential motions to contribute to the state council meeting, and they are around road maintenance and improvement package and an improvement package, and residential villages legislation changes. The details of those motions and the rationale are in the attachments, which councillors have seen. The report and the motions are provided for your consideration. Happy to take any questions.
Councillors, are there any questions of clarification in regard to the contents of the report or the recommendation? Councillor Buckley.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Luke. I'm just wondering, how will Council track the outcomes and the advocacy progress of the adopted motions?
Through you, Mayor. The MAV has recently put in place a tracker for all the motions that go through the State Council and MAV. So that provides some transparency to the community and to all councils that put forward motions around how the MAV have progressed these motions through in their advocacy to state government, etc. And the percentage of how far down the track they are with those. So that's probably the best tool to use, and that's publicly available on the MAV website. So we would use that tool as the first port.
Thanks, Luke. And if I may, Mayor, just a supplementary question. So, Luke, knowing that we have that at our disposal now, which is a good advancement on what we've had previously, how is that reported back to Council and through your capacity? How do we get those reports back in that tracking, or is that just something that a councillor has to continually track themselves?
So perhaps I'll take this one, Mayor. At this stage, we've provided councillors with the link and the access. We're happy to, perhaps take on notice and have a discussion around how the councillor group might like to see them tracked and reported on. As one of our advocacy successes, we've got some more discussions around advocacy coming up shortly. Perhaps we can have that same discussion at the same time about if you'd like to see something more formal than the tracker tool that is on the MAV website, saying that we would be then using the MAV website to provide those reports to Council. Thank you, Mayor.
Sounds splendid. Sounds splendid. Thank you.
Any other questions, councillors? No, I see none. So there is a recommendation in the report, so I'll now call on any councillor to move a motion. I have a mover. Thank you, Councillor Eastman, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Crook. And Councillor Eastman, would you like to speak to the motion?
Very briefly, Mayor. I'd like to thank Luke and his team and the CEO for helping us get to these, what I think will be very important motions for MAV. I think that we'll get some support, quite a bit of support from other councils that are grappling with the same sort of issues that we are, and I look forward to seeing the progress on these initiatives into the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Eastman. And Councillor Crook, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. Just to support what Councillor Eastman said, and to add that these 2 matters that we're raising with MAV for further advocacy, funding for our roads, I don't think I need to speak on the need for that, but the way residential villages are currently rated and feed under the council scheme, some opportunities for improvement there. So I think they're welcomed suggestions to MAV to advocate on our and other councils' behalf. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Crook. Councillors, is the motion opposed? No, I see none. Does any other councillor wish to speak to the motion? No. In that case, I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those for? Thank you, councillors. The motion is carried. We'll now move on to reports from the Business Excellence Directorate. The first report is item 5.3.1, Domestic Animal Management Plan. And Ms Johnson, could you please present the report?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mayor. So the report before you tonight is seeking for Council to adopt the 26 to 29 Domestic Animal Management Plan, publish the adopted plan on our website and submitting a copy of the plan to the Department of Environment, Energy and DECA. I'm just going to call them DECA because now I've slipped my mind what they call themselves nowadays. No later than the 30th of April 2026. So, key points. Council is obviously required under the Act to prepare and implement a domestic animal management plan every 4 years. Under the Domestic Animals Act, it's a regulatory animal control service plan. So what it does is it translates legislative obligations into operational priorities and then guides how we allocate our resources and apply enforcement and deliver education programs. So if we think about the mandatory things that it must address through the legislation, officer training and authorisation, nuisance minimisation and compliance activities, dog attack prevention and response, management of dangerous and restricted dog breeds, regulation of domestic animal businesses, and strategies to reduce overpopulation, impoundments and euthanasia. And finally, education initiatives to promote responsible pet ownership. So I just wanted to highlight a couple of the key initiatives that we've got in this particular plan. So it talks to the fact that we want to make sure pet owners understand the responsibility to care for and protect their pets and that they do not adversely impact on other pets, people or the environment. So it's that balancing piece. Reviewing our registration fee structure with a long-term view to make it cheaper to register puppies and kittens before they get desexed. Exploring reduced council registration fees when you adopt a desexed pet from the council pound, so supporting that particular piece for animal management, and providing information to our community to address issues that relate to things like dog attack mitigation strategies, roaming cats and barking dog nuisance complaints, because we get quite a few of those as part of our day-to-day operations. I think that's all I needed to say on this particular plan, so thank you for your consideration. Thank you, Mayor.
Councillors, are there any questions of clarification of the contents of the report or the recommendation? Councillor Eastman?
Sorry, clarification about the damp itself, Ms Johnson. Can you clarify what the damp is required to cover under the Domestic Animals Act and what's out of scope?
Yeah, absolutely. So if we just think about what the Act asks us to cover in this particular plan, so officer training and authorisation, nuisance minimisation and compliance activities, so think things like barking dogs and so forth, dog attack prevention and response, management of dangerous and restricted dog breeds, regulation of domestic animal businesses, strategies to reduce overpopulation, impoundment and euthanasia, and finally education initiatives to promote responsible pet ownership.
Thank you. Another, Mayor, if I may. So that's sort of regulatory rather than providing infrastructure, if you like, for the animals apart from the pound and whatever. Where does that work on planning and locating off-leash dog parks sit? And how does, and like, where do we go with that?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Eastman. And look, through you, Mayor. So the two things are certainly related, and it's just how what's driving the other part. So if we think about the actual definition of where we have off-leash dog parks sits within the Community Futures team, because it sits within how we derive or how we think about our open space and what community needs from an open space perspective. So the DAMP then supports this through promoting or enforcing where the on and off leash areas are to pet owners. So it sits under the actually managing the animal component of it, depending on, from a land use perspective, whether it's been declared on leash or off leash.
Right. I think I get it. Thank you.
And Councillor Travascus, you have a question?
Thank you, Mayor. I assume this is going to be a publicly available document if it goes through. Is that right?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Travascus, and through you, Mayor. Yes, absolutely. It's published on our website. The current one's published on our website as well, once it's, obviously, if it's adopted, and then submitted to the Secretary of DECA.
A question, Councillor Eastman, or just legacy?
Possibly a legacy question. I'm interested in the off-leash, sorry.
As in microphone. Yep.
Interested in the off-leash dog parks. So if we were to put more of those in, would that would have to be something decided through Community Futures, and would there need to be community engagement around that, or how do we go about that?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Eastman, and look, through you, Mayor, absolutely. So luckily enough, the council has actually adopted a policy in the open space strategy. As part of that strategy adoption in December, one of the actions in there said that we were going to develop an off-leash dog park provision framework, which was about developing a clear position supporting the domestic animal management plan, so this particular plan, that guides the provision and distribution of off-leash dog parks across the area. So that's already in an adopted strategy that you adopted in December. And then again, the DAMP talks to how we either promote or enforce those particular off-leash areas.
Right, thank you. Thank you.
And Councillor Buckley, you've got a question? Oh, wait, microphone. We just, yep.
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry about that. Thank you for that explanation, Sarah, and it certainly helps because I'm foreshadowing a proposed amendment to the motion. So my question is in regards to the responsible pet ownership, and we know that off-leash dog parks have a key responsibility in ensuring that responsible pet ownership have provisions made, and I understand that the actual practical side of implementing that is in the open space, but this policy, it does interact and it has a symbiosis to the open strategy policy. Is that correct?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Buckley. And through you, Mayor. So yes, they need to take each other into consideration. So if we think of the piece of land that we've got, the open space strategy is going to define whether that particular piece of open public space should be used for off-leash or on-leash, and it should be managing public priorities around that. What then happens if we think about the levers that we've got? The DAMP then goes through to the community laws team and says, okay, community's decided that this is an off-leash area, therefore we're going to promote it as an off-leash area, or community's decided that we want this to be on-leash because of community safety considerations and balancing those things, therefore the community laws team are going to go and enforce that as on-leash if it's not happening. So that's how the two connect.
Thank you. And integral to that is the importance of signage and you know, public communication and reference to getting information of where those places are, etc. And that sits comfortably within the DAMP, correct?
Thank you, Councillor Buckley. So there's an element for promotion of off-leash that could sit firmly within the DAMP, yes, if you were to align it with the responsible pet ownership.
Thanks so very much, Sarah. Thank you.
Councillor Crook, you have a question?
No, I'm happy to move the officer's recommendation.
Okay. No more questions, Councillor Buckley, just checking. Okay, thank you. So, councillors, there is a recommendation in the report, so I'll now call on any councillor to move a motion. Oh, okay. We have a tie. Okay.
With your
Yes,
indulgence,
I was
Mayor, I'm just going to get some governance advice because we had a foreshadowed and then we had two that came very close together. So I'm just going to get a little bit of governance advice.
CEO.
So given that Councillor Buckley had foreshadowed and was the first to foreshadow, the advice would be that Councillor Buckley should be allowed to go first with her motion.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Buckley, your motion.
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor. So bear with me a moment, just bringing that up. If I could request the notice of motion, the amendment to the notice of motion that I sent through to be put on the screen, please. And that's the one that I sent personally earlier today.
Okay, so I'm just getting clarification that it is just a motion.
It's just a motion.
Okay.
The council report comes with an officer recommendation. Councillors could choose to move that as a motion or a motion of their own.
Yes, so I'm choosing to amend the motion, which this is not, just checking. The one that I sent had an addition for signage on off-leash areas. Would you mind, Ella, if you please just had a look at your inbox? I sent it to you earlier. That's not quite the one that I sent through.
Okay.
Yep.
Just have a look.
Thank you. I'm happy to speak to the motion, Mayor, whilst that's being put up on the screen, if that suits you.
We're just going to wait for the motion, Councillor Buckley. We're just finding that now.
Through you, Mayor.
Yep.
We seem to have, Councillor Buckley, the one that you sent most recently that we have doesn't have signage included in it. Perhaps you could resend.
I can resend that now. I did send it earlier. That's okay. Modern technology. I'm happy to read it out. And if you could put the other motion up, it's only just an extra addition onto that. So my amended motion is 1, adopts the 2026 to 2029 Domestic Animal Management Plan as presented at Attachment 1, with the following additional action inserted under Priority 2, responsible pet ownership. The action would be to promote the importance of animal welfare by increasing community awareness of existing off-leash dog areas through periodic social media content and clear information on council websites and signage for off-leash areas. The time frame would be ongoing, and the evaluation method would be social media, engagement metrics, website page views, trends in off-leash related inquiries and complaints. 2 would be to publish the 2026 to 2029 Domestic Animal Management Plan on Council's website. 3, authorises the CEO or delegate to submit a copy of the adopted 2026 to 29 Domestic Animal Management Plan to the Secretary of the Department of Energy, Environment and Climate Action no later than the 30th of April 2026 in accordance with the approved extension of time. 4, requests the action 1.1 in the open space strategy relating to the development of an off-leash dog park provision framework is prioritised for completion by the 30th of June 2027. And 5, investigates funding sources including potential grants to support, deliver and the development of an off-leash dog park provision framework. So if I may, Mayor, I'm happy to read the rationale in regards to that motion.
We need a seconder for the motion first.
And if I could just confirm, Mayor, Councillor Buckley, we've now put the motion up. Can you confirm that that's the motion that you've just read?
Yes, it is, CEO. Thank you.
Okay, so now...
Can we ask a question?
No.
No. we need a seconder for the motion, is my understanding. And Councillor Travaskis has seconded the motion.
Thank you, Mayor.
And now, Councillor Buckley,
Thank you.
could you speak to your motion? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Councillors, the amendment to the motion prioritises the development of off-leash dog park provision framework and promotes increased community awareness of off-leash dog areas. It's a vital enhancement to complement, and that's the key word, it complements the 2026-29 Domestic Animal Management Plan. This additional action demonstrates Council's commitment to fostering responsible pet ownership while directly supporting the well-being of both dogs and their owners by ensuring that clear, accessible information about off-leash areas is regularly promoted through social media, the Council's website, and improved on-site signage. And by doing this, we empower the community to make informed decisions about where and how to exercise their pets safely. Importantly, prioritising the off-leash dog park provision framework recognises the critical role that safe, designated spaces play in supporting not just only animal welfare, but also the mental health and social connection of our residents. Dogs benefit immensely from opportunities to exercise, socialise and explore in a secure environment, which helps to reduce anxiety and behavioural issues. And likewise, owners gain peace of mind and a sense of community by having reliable spaces to interact with others who share a commitment to responsible pet management. These actions respond to community demand and feedback, reflecting best practice in animal management and urban planning. We've heard some of that community feedback, councillors, throughout our time as councillors. We've had letters, we've had requests. So taking these steps now ensures that municipality grows, we proactively address the needs of both pets and people, minimising conflict and complaints while enhancing quality of life. And by investigating funding sources and seeking grants to support the off-leash dog park provision framework, Council is also demonstrating fiscal responsibility and a strategic approach to delivering better outcomes for all. This amendment strengthens the Domestic Animal Management Plan. It's a supportive adjunct for a holistic, evidence-based approach to animal welfare and community well-being. So I would like you to consider this as a strengthening amendment to an important piece of work that the officers have brought forward to us today. And I would ask that you would support the animal lovers of East Gippsland. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Buckley. And Councillor Travascus, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. I think this is a very good plan, and I think the people that have worked on it have done a very good job. Probably the place where the leash-free areas is probably best in some ways is in the open spaces area. But where do dog owners go? They would go to this straight away, and it needs at least a reference in this plan. It needs to be a one-stop shop in a sense. I think it's very important that we give people good access to information and do it in a direct way. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Travascus. Is the motion opposed? Councillor Crook, you wish to speak against the motion?
Yeah, I do, Mayor. And look, it's certainly not to do with the aspirations that we've heard from the motion tonight. I know that we all appreciate the benefits of pet ownership. We all want dogs to have good places to run off-leash and on-leash and all those things. It's more to do with the process here, Mayor, and where the consideration of dog parks best fits in Council's existing strategic planning framework. The matter before us tonight is about the Domestic Animal Management Plan requirements imposed upon us by the state government. It's principally a regulatory document around setting fees and service charges and those sorts of things. And while we've heard tonight that there is an interplay between the Domestic Animal Management Plan and dog parks aren't directly addressed by the Domestic Animal Management Plan. They're addressed within our open space strategy. And we've heard already, as a part of that strategy, which has been approved by Council and works already scheduled to occur and been budgeted to occur, the development of an off-leash dog park provision framework. That's a mouthful, but it sounds to me like that's a better place for our council to consider where we have new dog parks or how we manage our dog parks, rather than in this state government regulatory response that is the Domestic Animal Management Plan. So I don't take issue with the aspiration of the motion as it's put. In fact, I thoroughly support the aspiration. I just feel it's better placed in our public open space, as a part of our public open space strategy, not within the Domestic Animal Management Plan. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Crook. Would anyone else like to speak for the motion? Would anyone else like to speak against the motion? And Councillor Buckley, I'm just going to check your hand is a legacy hand.
No, I'll have the right of reply.
You will. Yep. And so, Councillor Eastman, you're speaking for or against?
Against me, thank
Against.
you.
Okay. Thank you.
I empathise with dog owners and the need for open off-leash spaces for dogs, but I feel that that's already being addressed in the open space strategy, and there's already a commitment, 0 to 5 year commitment to that short time frame for introducing those across the board, depending on where they're needed, generally. So I don't know why the need for this motion to bring that forward when officers will already be working on it. And the other thing, it seems like it's a different space providing for infrastructure for animals such as an off-leash park, as opposed to setting up regulations around how we deal with pets, pet owners and whatever. So, for instance, if we were going to put something in for dogs, specifically off-leash parks, why haven't we got something for cats in there? You know, like it's sort of, I don't understand why you would choose one particular domestic animal as opposed to another when you're looking at infrastructure in a particular plan like this. It's not necessary, because I feel like we've already got in place what we need. But I respect that dog owners do like off-leash parks. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Eastman. Councillors, I'm just going to check again that there's no one, or if someone would like to speak for the motion. Someone to speak against. No, in that case, Councillor Buckley, if you would like to exercise your right of reply, thank you.
Certainly, and look, I respect the position of Councillor Crook and Councillor Eastman. However, I see that this is the right place. It's clearly the right place. It's over time where we've debated this and had discussions in briefing and workshops. It's become clear to me that there is a definite correlation between the two. And the requests that I have made, the first part adopts and bolsters strengthening of signage, because, you know, I've been informed we have, 40 off-leash areas and no one knows where they are. So I don't think that our DAMP has gone anywhere near clearly close to addressing that properly. In the amendment in 4 and 5, it's adjunct to the actual policy. It's separate to and supports the request that clearly states that we need to action and complete by June 27, because 5 years is a very long time when we have a growing population and we don't have clear signage or spaces. And so I think we need to start being a council of action, and that's what 4 is addressing. And point 5 address that we need funding to do this. It's very nice to have strategies and plans, but if we don't have funding, councillors, we won't be able to action any of what we're trying to achieve. So it's adjunct to the motion of the damp being submitted, and it supports the intent of the policy. So don't separate, you can separate the two, that's fine. But if you apply the perception of logic that this supports the damp and has key actions, I can bring this back as a separate motion in time, in a few months' time, if we want to keep it separate. That's absolutely fine. But to save officers' time, I thought it appropriate, and to save our resources, that we do it tonight. So I'm still asking for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Buckley. Councillors, I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those for? Can we hands up high so we can see? Thank you. All those against? Thank you, councillors. And abstaining? Can we check the numbers?
I had three Mayor. I had 3 for the motion and 5 against the motion. I'll just check with 4. Sorry?
Did I see your
No,
hand?
5.
Abstain.
Oh,
Thank
and 1
you.
abstained.
Abstained. Thank
My
you.
apologies.
Yep.
Always
Thank
good
you.
to check. And,
Yep.
and 1 abstaining. So 3 for, 1 against, 4 against and 1 abstaining. So the motion is lost.
Thank you, councillors. The motion is lost. Okay. Oh, apologies. Where am I doing? Yeah. Okay. Apologies. If the motion is lost, invite a mover. Can I have a mover for the officer recommendation?
I'm happy to move a motion that is the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Crook. Do I have a seconder for the motion?
Sorry, just before we go there, I've got a question about...
We're checking.
Excuse me for just a moment, Mayor. Sorry, Mayor, we were just conferring. Always good to do it on the night rather than the next day.
Thank you.
The motion is lost because an abstainer is counted as a vote against the motion rather than for a motion in our governance rules.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for the clarification,
Still move the
CEO.
officer's recommendation, so we need a seconder. Councillor Allen, seconder.
We have a recommendation to move the officer's recommendation, correct?
Yes,
Oh,
I've
you've
done that, Mayor.
and I've got a
Councillor
seconder.
Allen seconded.
And Councillor Crook, would you like to speak to the motion?
Just to say that this domestic animal management plan fulfils our requirements under the state government legislation, sets a range of different compliance measures and responds to those state government needs. It doesn't go into great detail about dog parks, but as we've heard, there are other avenues of council that we are happy to support to go there. So happy to move the officer's recommendation as it stands. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Crook. And Councillor Allen, would you like to second the motion?
Thank you, Mayor.
Second the motion.
Look, as Councillor Crook said, this is about regulating pets and ownership and has to be done every 4 years. and I commend the Sarah's team on the great job that they've done.
Thank you, Councillor Allen. So, councillors, I'll now put this motion to the vote. All those for? Okay, thank you.
Did you call
Can-
the speakers for and against?
No. Okay. Apologies, councillors. We're doing the for and against, and I've got Councillor Buckley waving at me on screen, and I thought that's what she was doing. So let's go back to speaking against the motion. And do I see councillor speaking against the motion? Councillor speaking for the motion? No, we're all quiet. Okay, now we're going to the vote. Apologies, councillors, for the confusion. All those for? Okay. Thank you, councillors. The motion is carried. Okay, just going to have a little breath.
Can I just confirm before we move on to the next item? So I counted 7 for and 1 abstaining. Is that correct, or was it unanimous?
It was unanimous.
It was unanimous. Sorry.
The second time round.
Thank you for
Thank you,
correcting
CEO. Okay. Oh, yes. Just for those in the gallery, for the very young Rotary students in the gallery, please feel free to leave whenever you feel the need. You've done very well to this point, so thank you for being here as we move on to the next item of 5.3.2, delegations, council to members of staff. And Ms Johnson, would you please present your report?
Thank you, Mayor, and a riveting and very highly important report this one is. Look, councillors, before you is a report titled Delegations, Council to Members of Staff, which is seeking your consideration and adoption of the updated Section 6 Instrument of Delegation from Council to Members of Council Staff as provided in Attachment 1 of your papers, and the Section 18 Instrument of Subdelegation as provided in Attachment 2. It also seeks the revocation of the Section 6 Instrument of Delegation dated the 22nd of November 2022 and the Section 18 Instrument of Subdelegation dated the 1st of February 2022. So key points for this one, and this is a really critical one for how we get things done. Local government decision making is governed obviously by a series of legislative frameworks that describe how and by whom statutory powers, duties and functions can be exercised. The framework is underpinned by formal instruments of delegation and subdelegation, which give a traceable chain of authority to the right people to make those decisions. So under the Local Government Act, Council has the power to delegate to the CEO or delegated committees. The CEO can then subdelegate council powers, duties and functions to members of staff. Whilst the Local Government Act only allows council to delegate to the CEO or delegated committees, a number of other acts administered by council still contain express provisions allowing council to delegate statutory powers directly to members of council staff. Those are the ones that are recorded in the Section 6 Instrument of Delegation. In addition, we've got the Environmental Protection Act, which enables the Environment Protection Authority to delegate certain powers, duties and functions to councils. These primarily relate to on-site wastewater management systems. And the EPA has formally delegated these matters to council, which we must then subdelegate to members of staff through the Section 18 Instrument of Subdelegation. So the final piece is that all of these delegation framework is maintained through Maddocks Delegations and Authorisation subscription service. So that provides a biennial legal reviews and updates to all instruments of delegation, and it's provided across the local government industry because there's a lot of complexity in this, so it's a single source of truth for us all. So the update that you've got today in your attachments reflects the new and changed legislative powers and administrative updates, which mean that they're current, legally valid and aligned to the legislative requirements and our organisational structure. Thank you, Mayor, for your consideration of my report.
Thank you, Ms Johnson. Councillors, are there questions of clarifications regarding the report or the recommendation? No, I see none. So there is a recommendation in the report, so I'll now call on any councillor to move a motion. Thank you, Councillor Crook. And a seconder, Councillor Eastman, thank you. And Councillor Crook, would you like to speak to the motion?
Certainly, thank you, Mayor. A seemingly ambiguous and confusing, but all the same important matter for Council's consideration tonight. For the viewers at home and those in the gallery, this is part of the process whereby which the state gives Council and our delegated officers the power to administer parts of the law. It's the bit where they tell us we can do it on their behalf, and then we come and tell you what you've got to do to be in compliance or to be doing the right thing. It's not the most riveting, but it is very important, because without it, our council won't be able to authorise officers to act on the state's behalf, like we've heard tonight from the Environmental Protection Agency or whoever else that is. So it is important. And I'm just trying to get into my computer because there's some words at the end there I really wanted to say. The update that we're passing tonight, as you've heard from Ms Johnson, it updates the report arises directly from Council's biennial subscription. So we subscribe to a legal firm. They sift through all the different requirements of all the different acts and all the different delegations and rules and responsibilities council officers have to follow and deliver. And they say, hey, council, you need to update that particular provision. And they've done that for us back in January. And so this Maddocks Delegation and Authorisation Subscription Service ensures that Council's delegation instrument remains current, legally valid and aligned with our legislative requirements and organisational structure. So I have no problem in recommending the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Crook. And Councillor Eastman, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and through you. And with respect, Councillor Crook, I think it's absolutely riveting, this stuff. And if I was teaching legal studies students still, I'd be asking them to go through this and consider all the acts and regulations that councils have to cover and look at the list of things that councillors or council staff have to do on behalf of council, because it gives a really good overview of the breadth of the work that we are responsible for, accountable for, and to the government and to our public. So I would highly recommend this as nighttime reading. But no, thank you, officers, for putting all this together. It's very important. I think every budding and existing councillor should actually go through the list and look at the types of things that you have to be on top of all day, every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Eastman. Councillors, is the motion opposed? No? Does any other councillor wish to speak to the motion? Councillor White.
Oh, just to back up what Councillor Eastman said, if you are an insomniac, it would be rude.
Thank you, Councillor White. Would any other councillor like to speak against the motion? No, I see none. Okay. I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those for? Thank you, councillors. The motion is carried. The last report for tonight is item 5.3.3, Organisational Performance Report, September to December 2025. And thank you, Ms Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. So this report before you is seeking endorsement of the full year operating forecast and capital budgets as included in the organisational performance report at attachment 1, noting that the Chief Executive Officer has determined that no revised budget is required for the 25-26 financial year, notes that we are currently reviewing the capital budget forecast and will provide an update in Q3, and notes that if endorsed, the organisational performance report for this particular period will be published on our website. So, key points. Section 97(3) of the Act requires in the second finance report to Council that a statement is included from the Chief Executive Officer as to whether a revised budget is or may be required. The circumstances are that 1, you've got to do a variation to the declared rates or charges, undertake any borrowings that have not been approved in the budget, or make a change to the budget that the Council considers should be a subject of community engagement. The CEO, having considered all of those things, has determined that we don't need to do a revised budget for the 25-26 financial year, which is included in the report. So if I go through the report, the first section of the Organisational Performance Report gives you a summary of your achievements against the strategic objectives in the Council plan. I'll go through just a couple of the highlights. You can see that there's nearly 12,000 total participants in Council engagement opportunities this quarter, and Your Say activity increased significantly. You can see that the Waste and Recycling Service Review and Transition Plan was endorsed by Council in November 2025. You can see that the Omeo mountain bike track officially opened in December 2025. And one of the other ones that I think is really important to this particular council and close to my heart as well, because it's whole organisation too, is customer compliments actually overtook complaints in the last quarter, with 61 compliments recorded and a record low 39 complaints. So the other piece that I wanted to highlight as part of this report is the financial report, which is obviously incredibly important as well. So as at 31st of December 2025, the year-to-date operating surplus is $31.4 million, which is $0.9 million unfavourable to the forecast. The variance is driven largely by higher than forecast employee costs and depreciation, which is partially offset by variances in materials and services. When we look overall, the Council is forecasting an operating deficit of $7.1 million, representing a $16.3 million unfavourable variance compared to the adopted budget surplus of $9.23 million. The main reason for this, though, and I wanted to break down the main reasons. So the first main reason is that there's $10.7 odd million in financial assistance grants that we've received, but we received last financial year, not this financial year. So you can't see the revenue of those coming in this particular quarterly financial updated. So the other major contributor is carried forward grants. So this is money that we've had in the bank in prior years, but we've carried forward the work for that particular grant into this financial year, and you can see $6.6 million of adjustments for those reasons. So when you adjust for those timing impacts, the adjusted operating result is $10.2 million compared to a budget of $9.2 million. So just demonstrating they're the key parts. The performance report outlines variances in employee costs, with a full year forecast expecting employee costs to be $1.73 million over adopted budgets. The main attributive factors of that is that we've got some additional grant funded roles that weren't in the adopted budget. We've done a full assessment of our casual staff budgets and included an additional $735,000. This is about maintaining levels of service to community and meeting our industrial relations obligations. And finally, there's a movement between the budget categories from materials and services into employee costs of $500,000. The capital works budget was adopted in June 2025 at $471.7 million. So after final adjustments for carry forwards, the total budget increased by $3.2 million, resulting in an initial budget of $74.86 million. Following further revisions, the forecast capital budget has decreased by $5.5 million, which results in a revised budget of $69.322 million at the end of December 2025. So at the end of Q2, Capital Works program had 188 projects, of which 31 have been completed, 136 were in progress, 16 were yet to commence, and 5 have been withdrawn. So just finally, at the end of the period, the capital project expenditure and commitments totalled 24.889 million, which represents 35.9% of the revised capital works budget. I've also got our Chief Finance Officer, Ernest, online tonight for any questions that we may need his assistance with. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions of clarification in the report or the recommendation? Councillor Eastman?
If I may, Ms Johnson, can you explain why, when we see the words operating surplus, it may not mean the same thing as a surplus would to people with their normal budgeting?
Thanks, Councillor Eastman. I think it's a really good one that Ernest might be able to help me with, but I feel like Ernest was having some technical issues with his sound. So Ernest, can you hear us now?
Yes, I can hear you. So, Councillor Eastman, it's a very interesting question, because one important thing to keep as with councils is that we front load our revenue. Essentially, we bill revenue at the beginning of the financial year, because rest revenue become available as soon as the year begins, which means we take into account all the bills for the revenue that we have issued and recognize it as revenue straight away on the 1st of July. But what actually happens between July and June the following year is that we start paying expenses out of that account or out of that revenue. So at any point, remember, we've taken revenue for the whole year, and we're going to be charging salaries month after month. So essentially, the money that we are calling surplus at any particular point before the end of the year is essentially money that is held to be paid in future on, example, salaries or on materials. It's not really that it's surplus, as in it doesn't have anything to be used for. It's essentially a timing difference as to when are we actually going to pay for it.
Thank you, Ernest. If I understood that correctly, you're saying that it looks like there's money there, but it's already allocated to certain things. Is that correct? That it's not actually, it's more money than we have been able to use this year on our capital projects, etc., but it's not free money.
Yes, it's money that is already allocated essentially, but we haven't, for example, we haven't paid salaries between now and June. In as much as we have a rough estimate of how much it is, but because we run accounts before the end of the year, we tell you how much money is available to pay for expenses between now and the end that was December, the accounts we are looking at, between December and June 2026. That is what we are calling surplus.
Thank you.
And Councillor Buckley?
Thank you, Mayor. My question is in regards to 1.5 Treasury on page 17 of the report. So the query that I have is that originally, when the community infrastructure low interest loans from the Treasury Corporation of Victoria were undertaken, we had in place a long-term agreement that they would remain at 1%. Now, with the increase in rates announced today, I'm just wondering, I see in the report that it's up at 4.625%, and that's a substantial variation on what the original agreement was. So how is that going to impact our budget?
Yes, thanks, Councillor Buckley. It's a good question. So the increases have been included in the updated forecast, which is part of the adoption piece that we're looking for and seeking from Council tonight. If I go back to those two particular loans, and I will have to take part of the question on notice because I wasn't actually here when we signed up for those two loans, but my understanding is that we were successful in getting a subsidy on interest rates for those two particular loans, and that's why they became low interest it was a low interest grant. I'd have to be able to quantify what that means from a financial sense, but that's not something I can answer on the fly tonight, unfortunately, Councillor Buckley. However, I do know that as part of our forecasting, we have taken into account interest rate rises.
So thank you for that response, and I will look forward to hearing your response in regards to that question. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you. Any other questions, councillors? Okay, I see none. So we've got a recommendation in the report, so I'll now call on any councillor to move a motion. Can I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Crook. And a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Allen. And Councillor Crook, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thanks, Mayor. Happy to. Look, this report provides our community exactly what they should expect from us. Clear reporting, honest commentary and real evidence of progress. The report demonstrates that Council's delivering across our 4 key themes of our Council plan: community wellbeing, prosperity, making the most of what we've got and managing Council well, while operating in what is undoubtedly a complex and increasingly constrained fiscal environment. First, on community wellbeing, we're seeing genuine and measurable outcomes. Community engagement is up significantly. Participation on Your Say increased by more than 80% last quarter. This report is about last quarter, not this one. And we just heard before, we got more compliments than we did complaints. Fantastic. Our aquatic facility usage is up, our cultural programs are expanding, and our council's work shows meaningful leadership beyond compliance. And these aren't abstract initiatives. They directly support mental health, inclusion and connection right across East Gippsland. Secondly, on prosperity and planning, this quarter showed solid progress in providing land for new housing, supporting local businesses and strengthening investment readiness. Amendment C162, the structural planning in Lucknow, Omeo and Swifts Creek and ongoing economic development initiatives all demonstrate a council working thoughtfully to balance growth, amenity and long-term livability. On assets, environment and resilience, the report shows strong progress in waste reform, the circular economy initiatives that we're working on, bushland planning, coastal hazard management and climate risk preparedness. These aren't optional extras, they're essential investments to protect community safety, natural systems and future generations. Projects like the community compost facility, the bushland strategy and the water reuse initiatives show council planning beyond the short term. Finally, I just want to address financial performance, because this is where I think misunderstandings can most easily arise, and we heard the discrepancy between the common use of the term surplus and the way that it's used in Council's official reporting frameworks. They're not necessarily the same thing, so we apologise for any confusion on that. But look, this report's full-year operating deficit is primarily a timing issue. It's driven by the financial assistance grants payments received early in the prior year. And once this is adjusted for, the underlying position remains relatively stable with strong liquidity, low debt and adequate operational reserves. And importantly, our working capital ratio is well above target. Our debt levels remain modest. Capital renewal investment exceeds depreciation, protecting our assets. This is the picture of a council that is financially responsible, transparent and in control, even while delivering a very large and complex program of works. Mayor, this report matters because it reinforces trust. It shows a council that is accountable, improving and delivering steadily, even as demands on local government continue to grow. I thank the CEO and the staff for the quarterly report and commend it to council. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Crook. And Councillor Allen, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. Look, it's a very, very comprehensive report, as was Councillor Crook's summary of the report, and I think that it's a credit to the staff who have prepared it, that it's covered so comprehensively everything that we do across the business.
Thank you, Councillor Allen. Is the motion opposed? No? Does any other councillor wish to speak to the motion? No, I see none. In that case, I will now put the motion to the vote. All those for? Thank you, councillors. The motion is carried. The next item is item 6, which is urgent business. CEO, I believe there is no urgent business for tonight's meeting.
Thank you, Mayor. No, we have no urgent business.
And the next item is item 7, confidential business. I believe we have no confidential business
There is
tonight.
no confidential business tonight, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, councillors. This concludes the proceedings for tonight's meeting. Thank you to everyone who attended in the public gallery, and for the young Rotary community members, thank you for hanging in there, and to their parents for bringing them along, and to everyone who watched online. I now declare the meeting